Welcome, fans of flip clocks. If you frequent eBay looking for flip clocks, you've laid eyes on it. The 1950s era television clock. This clock, manufactured by the Pennwood Numechron Company, is actually a cyclometer-type clock with rolling wheels displaying the time in digital form. This clock seems to have suffered from an identity crisis, as it went by many names in the day. Firstly, the television clock was considered a Numechron Tymeter clock, a type of Pennwood Numechron Company clock, and designated as the model number 700. And while the clock face clearly reads Tele-Vision, on the back you will see the clock described as TV model. The manufacturer also seemed unsure of how to describe it, as on their original packaging you can read the descriptions TV Tymeter clock on one side and television lamp clock on the other, as well as number 700 TV. Can it get any better than this? Yes, it can. In some advertisements, the clock was described as the Glow Light Colorama television lamp clock with focalizer stair brake. Awesome. Confusion regarding the purpose of this clock continues to this day, as we will see later, and this should not be unexpected considering that the reason for the clock's very existence rests on the public's misconceptions about television viewing around the 1950s. The background of television viewing. The earliest televisions were displayed to the public in the late 1920s, and by the 1930s, television stations became increasingly common. But it was the decade of the 1950s that saw an explosion in the number of homes with a television, as well as the birth of the golden age of television with shows like I Love Lucy, Gunsmoke, The $64,000 Question, and The Ed Sullivan Show, just to name a few. Along with the increasing popularity of television came the belief among a good number of Americans that TV viewing was damaging to the eyes. Many ophthalmologists were presented with patients who were convinced that their eye problems were caused by this new technology. As you may imagine, many mothers all over the country were concerned that television would cause their children to go blind. This phenomenon can be seen by widely published articles of the day, trying to assure the public of the safety of television. In 1950, Dr. Glenn A. Fry and Dr. Arthur M. Kuller, co-directors of the Institute for Research in Vision at Ohio State University, conducted a study of eye doctors and reported the consensus that, quote, there is no widespread belief that television is contributing to changes in the static refraction of the eye, the status of the muscle balance, or to the development of such disorders as glaucoma and cataract, or to any serious impairment of the function and structure of the eye. The year prior to this, Dr. Franklin M. Foote of the National Society for the Prevention of Blindness noted that, quote, a few people are going to eye doctors complaining that watching television makes their eyes hurt or gives them headaches. Some people ask whether harmful radiations come at their eyes from the television screen, but from all the facts we can learn, there's nothing to either idea. Foote admitted that television viewing could cause eye fatigue and advised that keeping the television room dark made too great a contrast between the bright picture and the surroundings. He went on to recommend that television viewers should, at a minimum, keep a dim light on in the room. This advice was echoed in 1952 by Dr. Ralph W. Danielson, chairman of the Department of Ophthalmology at the University of Colorado Medical School. Danielson asserted that he did not believe television viewing caused eye damage, but recommended that, quote, the television room should be partly illuminated so there is not too great a contrast between the background and the screen, adding that indirect illumination was the best. And with such medical advice as this, the TV lamp was born. If you are unfamiliar with TV lamps, welcome to the fascinating world of kitschy TV top adornments that served to provide that soft indirect illumination to save the world from television eyes. These lamps were typically ceramic or plastic and had a nightlight type bulb on the back, filtering low light to the wall behind the television. These lamps, oh my! They came in all forms, from simple lamp styles to figurines such as cats, dogs, horses, owls, mallard ducks. We can go on and on. For some reason, a very popular form was the Black Panther. At this point, it's worth mentioning common misconceptions these days about TV lamps. Some collectors of TV lamps state as fact that TV lamps existed because early TVs had a, quote, dull luminescence and were best viewed in the dark. I believe that collectors of vintage items fall prey to the tendency to try to fill in the gaps, as there really is not much of a written history of such things, outside of newspaper articles and advertisements. As we now know, the lamps were designed to prevent too great a contrast between the TV and the background. The early TVs were not especially dim. This can be illustrated by an advertisement in 1951 for a type of special light bulb for the television room, the Verta Ray TV light bulbs. You can't make this up. In the ad, it is written that, quote, the picture seen on your TV screen is an intense direct light source that is usually 10 times as brilliant as the light from a movie screen. Thus, for maximal visual comfort and protection with television, room lighting must be soft, diffused, and correctly balanced. This permits the eyes to relax by unconsciously wandering from the television picture without the visual shock caused by extreme contrast. The TV lamp clock. As you may be starting to realize, the television clock was just one form of a TV lamp. This is why the back of the clock is clear plastic, to allow a good bit of ambient light to reach the wall behind the television on which it was meant to sit. And now you may appreciate the name emblazoned on the front of the clock. It's not a television clock, it's a, drum roll, Tele-Vision clock. Not only will it tell you the time in a new and exciting digital way, it will save your family's vision. Pennwood Numechron made several other styles of TV lamp clocks, but this model number 700 is the most commonly encountered these days. This could be explained by the fact that it was frequently given as a promotional item. A review of newspaper advertisements from throughout the 1950s showed that this particular model was often given away, especially for starting a new bank account, or offered at a nominal price when buying other products. The Tele-Vision clock, a lot of history rolled up in one little clock. So now we may be able to better appreciate the history wrapped up in this one little clock, a relic from the 1950s that could appeal to many varieties of collectors. The Pennwood Numechron Tele-Vision clock is not only an early cyclometer, the precursor to the flip clock, it's a true TV lamp from the 1950s, during a decade in which the public had significant fear of eye damage from this new, ubiquitous, and increasingly popular invention, the television. Thanks for taking the time to watch.
When you get the time, come visit us at flipclockfans.com.